What's up, Green Bay Packers fans? Paul Brettel here. As always, thank you for joining me. I'm the site editor over at Dairyland Express, where we cover the Packers, Brewers, Bucks, and Badgers. I also have a new article out every Monday and Friday over at Cheesehead TV. And as it says at the bottom of the screen here, you can follow me on Twitter at Paul_Brettel. So for today's video, just like we've done the last several Saturdays, we're going to be previewing the Packers-Vikings game with my 5 big things to watch for. And I guess I have 6 because there's a little bonus one at the end. And as always, this is a spinoff of my 5 big questions article over at Dairyland Express, which you can find the link below, or head over to Dairyland Express, check out that article along with all the other work that I've put out recently. So let's dive in and let's start with the big one, the big thing that I will have my eyes on. I really, really hope that we see Joe Barry dial up the aggressiveness this week. Really, since the last time these two teams met, the Packers defense has been trending downward. Under Joe Barry, they play with light boxes, take away the pass first, absolutely, but the run defense is really getting exposed. And with that, with those light boxes, in coverage, we're still seeing soft coverages. Now, I get in today's NFL and in this Joe Barry defense, you want to eliminate the big play. So on first, second down, if the Packers are playing way off, again, there's times I'd like to see them be more aggressive, but I get it. But what I don't get is it's 3rd and 4, and the cornerbacks are 6-7 yards off the line of scrimmage. Why that's the case, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But overall, it's created what I feel like is a very passive defense. And instead of the Green Bay Packers being the ones trying to dictate things, it's the opposing offense. And Green Bay's just kind of letting things happen, letting it unfold, hoping that they come up with a turnover, which they absolutely did against Cleveland, or that the opposing offense just stalls out on their own. But this week, I really, really hope that there's less of that passive nature and more aggressiveness. Kirk Cousins is out. Sean Mannion is going to be under center for the Minnesota Vikings, or at least that's the expectation. He has only 74 career pass attempts. He has 3 interceptions, no touchdowns, and a passer rating of 57.5, according to Pro Football Focus. This isn't a Green Bay Packers defense that blitzes a lot, and they haven't had to. It's not like they're not generating pressure and Barry's refusing to blitz. They're doing a terrific job of getting home with their defensive front between Smith, Gary, and Kenny Clark. They ranked 25th in blitz rate this season. But this week, with an inexperienced quarterback and also a quarterback who's a bit of a statue in the pocket, I really want to see Green Bay make him uncomfortable. Get after Mannion. Send some blitzes to try to make as many of his pass attempts under duress as possible. And with that, I want to see another tendency breaker. They don't blitz a lot. I want to see them blitz much more than what they have been. As I mentioned, Green Bay plays with light boxes under Joe Barry. Load that baby up. We absolutely know, and even if Kirk Cousins was available, we know Dalvin Cook is going to get his fair share of carries. Do what you can to stop Dalvin Cook. This defensive front on its own, they're not going to be able to. We've seen that the last 2 weeks against some very good offensive lines and some run-heavy teams in Baltimore and Cleveland. So add some extra guys to the box. And when it comes to Justin Jefferson, just double team him. I mean, make Mannion beat you with another pass catcher. If you're double teaming Jefferson, you have some extra guys in the box, and tight end Tyler Conklin goes for 25 yards, so be it. That recipe is not going to be strong enough over the course of the game, or it shouldn't be anyways, to beat this Green Bay Packers team. And as I mentioned earlier, Green Bay playing the soft coverages on first and second down, I get it. But this week, I really, really want to see them take that away. Mannion is going to be looking for the quick, the easy completions. Take those away, play closer to the line of scrimmage. And hey, once again, if Mannion connects with Justin Jefferson, for example, for 50 yards because you were playing aggressively, so be it. Once again, make Mannion, the inexperienced quarterback, make him prove that he can beat you with his arm. So this is the big thing that I really want to see. I have my doubts on how much of all this that we'll see, but take away Justin Jefferson, load up the box to try to slow Dalvin Cook, and blitz the heck out of Mannion. I want to see the Green Bay Packers defense be the one who dictates things on Sunday. Next big thing to watch is the Green Bay Packers. How do they start the game and how do they finish the game? These have been 2, especially as of late, issues for this Green Bay Packers offense. So right now, according to team rankings, the Packers rank 26 in first quarter points. The fact that they have 12 wins while ranking that low in that category is quite amazing, actually. But a big reason that they have the 12 wins is because they rank first in average second quarter points, averaging almost 10 per game. Aaron Rodgers has talked about the slow starts this year and the opening script, and I know that's something I've talked about on here in my three big things following, I think it was the Bears game. But this offense is kind of, in a way, a bit of the opposite of what the 2019 offense was. If you remember that opening script, and the opening script is the first 15, 20 plays of a game that Matt LaFleur has basically dialed up, saying we're going to call these plays in this order to try to get the offense in a groove. And it's really meant to exploit what the defense has put on film, because it's at a point in the game early on before any major adjustments are going to be made by the defense. So that's what you're trying to take advantage of. And when those plays are over, obviously there's still an overall game plan that LaFleur and the Packers are following, but at that point it's much more based off of the situation and what's going on. 2019, the Packers, if you recall, they were very good off that opening script, and they struggled once they got beyond it. This year, that opening script they've really struggled with, and Rodgers talked about that as well, and that's led to these slow starts that they've had. Now, fortunately, they've been able to turn it around, but on the other end of the spectrum, the fourth quarter, that's where they've haven't been able to put teams away. That's been very, very prevalent over the last 2 weeks. Green Bay ranks 19th in fourth quarter scoring this season. Now, I'll say that that's a bit misleading, just because they go into the fourth quarter oftentimes with at least a one score and sometimes a two score lead. They're trying to run the clock out. They're not necessarily looking, if it was tied, or if they were trailing, oh, we have to put up points right now. So that's that number, take that with a grain of salt. But the issue is how they're going about running out the clock. And this last week against the Browns was a prime example. They only had 2 possessions in the fourth quarter prior to taking that final knee. The first one, they ran the ball 3 times. A very, very conservative approach, especially when Cleveland was oftentimes covering Devontae Adams one-on-one, and they really had no answer for him, just like most defenses wouldn't. But they ran 3 run plays in a row, and one of them was when Josh Hyman was out. They ran at Ben Braden and Myles Garrett. Yeah, that didn't end well. Aaron Jones did not make it to the line of scrimmage. On the next possession, it started with an end around to Equanimeous St. Brown. He lost 9 or 10 yards, and basically at that point, that drive was dead. Even on the pass attempts, the completions that Rodgers had that fourth quarter, they were for 4 yards and 7 yards. And now if Devontae makes that reception, this is a much different narrative, I think, because Cleveland doesn't have that last opportunity to kick what would have been a game winner. Fortunately, Rasul Douglas came up with another interception. But overall, the play calling was very conservative. Rodgers talked about that after the game, how he wants the ball in his hands. And when I say conservative, I don't mean they got to push the ball downfield. They got to try to swing for the fences, hit those 25, 35, 45-yard plays. But again, it's the play calling, making sure you're mixing in the motion, the play action, the eye candy that Matt LaFleur is so good at pre-snap to keep defenses off balance, to open things up in the passing game, and again, having a good run-pass mix. I talk about it on here all the time. How I want the run game involved with this offense, because it is so important. But 3 straight run plays, 2 of them just right between the tackles, 1 to the best edge rusher side of the field. I mean, that really, really makes no sense. And you're just essentially setting yourself up for a 3-and-out in that situation. So first quarter offense, fourth quarter offense. How do the Green Bay Packers look this week against Minnesota? Because you start off slow, you can't put games away. You do that in January against Tampa Bay, against Dallas. That's absolutely could be a reason why you're sent home. Next up, can the special teams unit, the kick return unit specifically, contain Kene Ngwangu? Hope I said that correctly. But to our surprise, the special teams unit, after two abysmal weeks against Chicago and Baltimore, they were solid last week, or decent, I should say. Really, the only thing that comes to mind is there was a penalty, but other than that, there was nothing really egregious on their part. But this week, they're going to be up against one of the more dynamic kick returners in football. And Ngwangu only has 13 return attempts this season, but he has 2 touchdowns, which leads the NFL. He's also averaging 35 yards per kick return this season. Again, that's the most in football. Packers kick coverage unit, you guessed it, not very good. They're giving up 25.5 yards per return this season, which is the 7th highest average in football. And if we look at Sunday's weather, it is going to be cold for most of the game. It is expected to be around 0 degrees. And Mason Crosby, I think that increases the likelihood that he's not going to be able to kick the ball through the end zone as he often tries to do, which means Ngwangu's going to have return opportunities. This is absolutely a game the Green Bay Packers should win. I know it's not breaking news, but as we've seen, a special teams error or two can be the difference between putting a team away comfortably, or a close game, or hopefully not, but a game that you lose. So definitely something to keep our eyes on in this one, the Green Bay Packers kick return unit. Next up, can the Packers capitalize off turnover opportunities and pressure opportunities? Even in the last 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it's been, as this Packers defense has been trending downward, they've still been very good at generating pressure and creating turnovers, two things that they've done well all season. In terms of total pressures generated, they rank top 5 in football, according to Pro Football Focus. And in terms of takeaways, they rank 6th with 26 this season. However, those were two areas the last time that these teams met that we didn't see that same level of play in these areas from this Packers defense. And it ultimately very well could have been the difference between losing the game and winning the game. In terms of pressures, they still generated 22, again, according to Pro Football Focus. And that's not a bad number at all. That's a solid number. But as we just talked about earlier, Joe Barry doesn't blitz a lot. He had to blitz a lot, especially in that second half, to try to get after Kirk Cousins because they just weren't getting home. Now, it's important to keep in mind, Rashawn Gary did not play in that game. If you recall, the week before, that was when he had hyperextended his elbow. Green Bay held him out against Minnesota. So obviously, this is a huge boost for the pass rush, just having Gary back in the mix. But they weren't generating the same pressure. And there were a few plays where they were so close to sacking Cousins, but he got the ball off just in time, and credit to him, delivered some nice passes, which resulted in some big plays. Then on the turnover side of things, I mean, how many interceptions did Green Bay let slip through their fingers? 3, 4 of them. There was also a fumble put on the ground that they weren't able to recover. If they're able to convert one of those opportunities into turnovers, or maybe 1 or 2 of those pressures that they were so close on into sacks, the end result of that game absolutely could have been different. Again, if we look at the grand scheme of things, these are two areas that Packers weren't at their best at last time they played Minnesota, but it's two areas they've been very, very strong in all season long. So going to more so chalk that up to a fluky performance, which can happen over the course of an NFL season. But if they can get back to generating those turnovers, pressuring without necessarily having to blitz, although we certainly want to see them do that, especially with Sean Mannion at quarterback, they should allow them to control this game. Lastly, who's going to punt for the Green Bay Packers? Corey Bojorquez was placed on the reserve COVID list on Tuesday. So first off, under the new NFL guidelines, he can return for Sunday's game. So it's not that he's absolutely ruled out at this point. We just don't know. But if he can't, who's going to punt? And perhaps more importantly, who's going to hold for this Green Bay Packers special teams unit on field goals and extra points? Because Bojorquez is the holder. And as up and down as this special teams unit's been this season, Bojorquez has been maybe the one consistent bright spot that they've had. And we've seen him do it all. We've seen him hit a 72-yard punt. We've seen him pin the opponent inside their own 10. We've seen him with directional kicks, pinning the opponent along the sidelines. He's really, really done it all, and has, as the golfers say, every club in his bag, it would appear. So Green Bay, or Maurice Drayton did mention that they're having tryouts right now with players who are currently on the roster for being the holder in case Bojorquez can't go. And Green Bay also did work out. They didn't sign him, but they did work out Johnny Townsend on Friday. Townsend has 85 career punt attempts. He's averaged 43.3 yards per punt and has an average hang time of 4.23 seconds, according to Pro Football Focus. So this is just something to watch. Again, this has been a very questionable special teams unit this season, and I imagine that's putting it politely. But not having Bojorquez in there is just going to create another question mark at one of the very, very few, or perhaps the only steady presences that you had on the special teams unit. So hopefully it can go. That's certainly still in play, but absolutely something to keep our eyes on. Lastly, the bonus. Can the Green Bay Packers clinch the 1 seed? In order to do so, they have to win and they need a little help from Arizona, who plays the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas holds the tiebreaker over Green Bay because they have the better conference record. So Green Bay either needs to win out these last 2 games or win Sunday and have Dallas lose one. And if they do, Green Bay is your NFC 1 seed. They lock up the bye, home field advantage, and then we might get to watch Jordan Love next weekend take on the Detroit Lions. So there are my 5 big things to keep our eyes on as this Packer game unfolds. As always, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Check out my work at Dairyland Express. Check it out at Cheesehead TV. Follow me on Twitter at Paul_Brettel. And please like this page, subscribe to this page. I do greatly appreciate it. So until next time, friends, take care, stay safe, and as always, go Pack Go.